We're here because of bees, because of the important role that bees have in our society and for food security. But more so that the fact that you've been a part of the Bee Force pilot project, the RERDIC project, Horticulture Australia, and just looking at the original newsletter that went out to you, the aim of Bee Force was to train and evaluate a team of confident beekeepers, hobbyist beekeepers, in critical areas around the port. And the confidence and the enthusiasm was really high, but what we found is the confidence was very high too. The reliability of what was coming back to DPI, then going on to entomologists, was regular, where beekeepers weren't able to get their samples back to us. You know, they were getting in contact all the time, and we've collected that data over this 2-year period, and Sabine's put that together in a combined final report, which you'll all be privy to once it's gone through RERDIC. Their intellectual knowledge, of course, they paid for it. But it's personally, it's been great dealing and working with the people, all the people that have been involved, right through the Geelong and doing it through John Edmonds as a team leader, and through Victoria with DPI being the team leader, and then comparing those two and how the reliability of that as well. But the enthusiasm is the one thing that's been a common thread all the way through. It's been absolutely fantastic. Sabine will say a few words. We'll get one more sticking mat test out to the people in Melbourne, if you can get around to doing that before the close of business for bees, which is pretty well now anyway. But it's it's a meaningful test, particularly the one May, June, because you're looking at nearly a broodless hive, and if there was Varroa in the hive, that's when the acrocidal strip, the Bayvarol strip, will knock the mite down off the bee. Where you've still got brood, if you apply the strips in between that time while the mites are underneath the cap cell, and before the mites come out with the emerging bee, well then you may not necessarily pick up a mite on the sticking mat. But where you've got a broodless hive, that's where it's become it's quite critical. With the sugar shake program which we were doing, the sugar shake in June is probably the most meaningful one of the year, but that's a time of year where beekeepers don't want to shake bees out of their brood nest, and understand that as well. But it's a fine balance between testing at the most critical time and what's best for the husbandry of the bee as well. So that's always a little bit of broken glass we walk on when we're doing these exercises. But again, thank you very much for being a part of it, and you'll be hearing more from us as well as this goes on. And Geelong, they'll be getting another set of strips and mats and everything down there soon too. So yeah, they'll be going down to Geelong, down to John, and then they'll go out to the club as well, through the club. So I'll hand it over to Sabine now, and again, thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming today, and thank you for participating. It's been a fabulous 2 years for me, definitely one of my favorite projects. And I really hope that this initiative is going to be rolled out as a federal initiative. I've heard that other states are actually demonstrating some interest in Bee Force. I am in the process of completing the final reports, and thank you for your patience with the big survey. I know it was a lot of questions, but I needed all of this information to be able to report to RERDIC who you are and what your motivations were, and how we can capitalize on your participation in the future. So thank you ever so much for being a part of Bee Force. Hopefully we'll keep you on board, I hope for many years, and we hope for maybe other type of testings. We will see what the federal government and the state governments agree to. We'll see if there's money still involved, and I will definitely keep you informed. As soon as I'm finished with the report, it will go through RERDIC, and if they agree to it, and I'm sure they will, they'll put it on their website, and you'll be free to visit the final report. But I'll make sure to send a few newsletters before I say bye-bye. Thank you again.
Are there any questions? Can anyone answer that question?
Is there any questions regarding Bee Force, or
how many participants are there in the whole program in the state?
Currently 21. Currently 21. And if there's money for Victoria in the years to come, it would be fabulous to involve Portland, for instance, as a third town. We hope to keep those numbers up. I think 21 is manageable.
Yeah, 21. We would like to extend it. Would have been nice to then carry it on and extend it to Western Port as well. reports that it's meaningful. And from a DPI point of view too, it's with an exercise like this, it costs money. It's important that they are in meaningful places, not just surveillance anywhere for the sake of surveillance. But regardless of whether it becomes a national program or whether it was a pilot program and some new models, or maybe another trial of something else comes out of it, you've been a part of Victorian or national beekeeping history. We're testing honey from the Bee Force program for residue levels for the Bayvarol strips. That's never been done in Australia, ever. So we're setting a new bar. We're setting some new guidelines for a national program, regardless.
Talking about this, Joe, I've been invited in Europe to give a presentation at the European Plant Protection Organization, EPPO, because there's no program like this one run elsewhere in the world, and they really want to hear what Australia has tried with Bee Force, and they want to see if they can piggyback on it. Probably be good.
So if there are residues found, will they be reported in this initial report or for a later report?
That would have to be for a later report, because the initial report, the MRL testing is something we've been able to pick up and actually run with once we started in this program. So we've decided to run with that and then do that as a side shoot from this project. Certainly we'll have, and the National Sentinel Hive program, which has never ever had that MRL testing. Bee Force, again, sort of leads the way with that. Bee Force has complemented the National Sentinel Hive program in Victoria, the Swarm Catch Box program, the Sugar Shake program, and Bee Force, and additional Sentinel hives that the Victorian State Government has now. It's certainly Victoria's leading the way with surveillance with Varroa. That's an undisputable. When you go to a meeting somewhere, they talk about that. Other states talk about it. Bruce White from New South Wales has spoken about that too. So we're quite proud to have had all of the participation and the enthusiasm that we've been getting from the hobby beekeepers.
How did you determine the numbers?
What numbers? The numbers? You
21.
Mean? Oh well, they are recruited, they are selected. So basically there's a few prerequisites. You have to be definitely registered. You have to be quite confident with your hive, because you need to open your hives quite a few times during the year to actually place the strips and manipulate, the hive to actually do the test itself. And so Joe has got, of course, a database of beekeepers, so he's been actually scanning the database and picking people where, in the 5 to 10 kilometers radius from the suspicious point of entry. And if you're in this radius, then, you'll be contacted, and if you agree to be a part of Bee Force, well, there you go.
With initially too, the pilot project could only afford to, the budget's only for so much, so we had 10 in Melbourne, and 10 in Geelong. We went to 11 in. Sorry, we went to
backups.
Yeah, we had backups, because we do have attrition of hives, or beekeepers have to drop out because.
Yeah, that's what the question was about, the actual numbers. It seemed very low.
Yeah,
you have to start somewhere. It's actually quite expensive to get the strips and to get all of the equipment, because people are given a hive. So they're given a hive with a very docile nucleus of bees. So you have to pay for the hive, all of the equipment, and the bees. And you have to buy the strips, and you have to buy all of the diagnostic testing. You also have to pay the diagnosticians in DPI to do the testing. All of this is happening at a cost. And since it's a pilot, you just want to keep, a few numbers to start with, and see if people really are able to keep on going for 2 years or even a year. Geelong will have been only a year, but Melbourne is 2 years. So you're asked to open your hive 6 to 8 times during a year, and at a specific date, one weekend or the other weekend. So it means if you're on holidays, you miss out. I mean, we needed all of this information. How reliable are going to be, for 1 year or 2 years, all of those people. It's not that, obvious. If you have a big group, you might not be able to get enough data.
And did you find any Varroa?
No, you would get to know, don't you worry.
You would have heard, don't worry.
Would know by now, goodness. No Varroa.
And with the regularity that people were actually having to open their hives and do this testing, that my observations were a number of beekeepers, their competency, their expertise in handling their own bees improved as we went on through that. And I've had that feedback from some beekeepers. You know, they were opening the hive more often. They were becoming more and more confident with it as well. Not only with the testing, but also with their beekeeping skills. So,
so is that sort of comment going to be in the final report?
Oh yes,
yes,
it's there already. I'm just putting the final graphs together. Where is Kratis? I've got the very last survey today.
The last survey is just coming.
So yes, numbers are almost finished. You'll get plenty of nice little graphs and pie charts and all of these beautiful colours.
So, yeah, again, thanks for being a part of it. The important thing is that this whole work around the port is seemingly the keyhole where Varroa or a parasite could easily come into Melbourne or Victoria. But in saying that, if we were to have a possible incursion of Varroa tomorrow, we'd be asking every beekeeper to test their hives, do a sugar shake, regardless of where you lived in Victoria or where you lived in Australia. But we'll speak on Victoria perspective, because if we find Varroa at Port Melbourne, and we have many people testing all around the place, and we have no other Varroa turn up anywhere, we know that we've got an early jump on it. So it's about testing. And the more we test and the more we find that we don't have Varroa, that's more evidence of freedom from disease, which is very important for our overseas markets as well.
Trading, yes, definitely. Yes, John?
You haven't found any Varroa, but have you found anything else that surprised you on the samples?
Treacle mites, one. Pollen mites.
Yeah, Linda may be able to comment on that. On the mats, we've had some...
Yeah, pollen mites. One treacle mite, one.
Oh, really?
I think I've gone through your reports, Linda.
They're usually in the soil, but they can get onto the plants, and there's, I think they've just been accidentally introduced into the hives. That's probably mostly the type of mites we've come across so far.
Are they a concern? Sorry?
That was my next question.
Or would they just be there normally, it's just no one's ever looked for them?
Yeah, I guess the pollen mites, I think, have been around. Well, they were introduced into Australia as well. I can't remember the year, but I think first found in New South Wales and later found in Victoria, and don't seem to poison. So as far as we know, that they shouldn't be a problem.
One of the most memorable things about the Bee Force project, particularly starting in Melbourne, is for those who are here, if you remember the day we delivered the hives, it was very, very wet. It was actually torrential rain. There was a lot of flooding in Melbourne, and we got to the last house and their backyard, beautiful little backyard, but the family was sitting down to dinner and we had to carry a live hive through the terrace house because there was no side gate.
Was it true? No, that was not true. Okay.
No,
because I can see you giggling over there.
and it was pouring. We went to Kratis's house. We dropped the hive off there, and then we went to go underneath the west gate to head down to Jim's place, the Seaholm, and there was flooded, and the car in front of us just got through. So we went through in a 4-wheel drive, and there were all these little cars just swamped. They were just underwater. The bonnets were underwater. So. And we had all these hives of bees in the back, so it was a very memorable day. But yeah. Anyway, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one question for the housekeeping.
Yes.
With regard to the specific dates that you send out there for tests, is there any way of letting us know what they might be in advance? Because invariably, if I get a strip, I'll open the hive the day before. So
what we'll do next year, if there is a next year, it's probably put a calendar of testing together with Joe. And what we will probably change, and my recommendation in the final report, is to have a separate slip where you would enter the date you put the sticky mat and the Bayvarol in the hive and the day you take it out. Because currently what we are monitoring is the day we send you the package and the day we receive everything from you. So it gives us an idea of how long it takes you to do all of this, but it doesn't give us the actual date you are doing the test for us. So this is what would need to change, I think, in the years to come.
Yeah, there were some people who would put in day submitted, like yourself, and then day taken out. But generally, the 23rd of the month is when the kits went out, and then Yeah, so I mean, the model, how we
yeah.
do it at our end would certainly change in the feedback we're getting from you.
Yes. We got this
from your point of view,
survey.
that's a good suggestion.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, calendar of testing would be good.
What is that, the maximum delay? In other words, say the strips are sent back in, I presume to this lady.
Yep.
If that were 3 weeks and there was something on the mat, that is important. How long
exactly
has it been on the mat versus we've discovered a problem?
Exactly, I do agree.
What, as to when they get the mat back to us?
No, when the mat was taken out of the hive, because you know the mats are taken out of the hive,
Correct.
sent.
If we take it out of the hive on the 1st of May,
Yep.
it doesn't go through the process and get to the right evaluation for say 3 weeks because of male delays, whatever.
The thing we don't have control over is, you know, we had the case of one person doing this, I think. You can put everything in the hive, take everything out and put it in the, you know, send back envelope, and you leave the envelope on your desk. There we go. Well, this has happened.
Yes.
Now, the way we have it set up currently is you've got your prepaid envelope, you put it in the envelope, it goes straight to Joe, or it goes straight to Mally and Linda. So, you know, if you are well organized, you take your sticky mat out, you roll it out, and on the Monday, let's say it's, you know, you do your testing the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On the Monday it can be in the mail, and by the end of the week, maximum, we would know about it, wouldn't we? Yeah.
And
so that's the only thing we don't have control over. It's how long people sit on their actual, you know, tests done.
I suppose in one respect, that's one of the things we're measuring by this project. But the flip side of that is that, let's just say Sabine took the strip out of her hive and she had it sitting in her shed for 2 weeks, and then she goes, oh, I've got to send that off to Joe, I've got to send it to Marley, and I get it, and it turns out to be positive. In the end, that's 2 weeks, but it's testing that's still, we still have found out that we've got it there, rather than her not testing her hive at all means that she's still got Varroa, but we don't know about it at all until it's spread far enough that we've got another person doing surveillance and still will pick it up. So if it's 1 week, 2 days or whatever, that's not a it's the most important thing is we know. It's not whether you got it within 24 hours, because it's a relatively slow moving thing until beekeepers start moving hives around. When you're talking about stationary hives, however, once you start talking about the movement of beehives from area to area, that's when Varroa really moves. So, yeah.
And also that's why it's important to have a pilot like this, that we can establish a good relationship with the beekeeping community, and a trusting one. So that, you know, if you actually forget to send your mat, well, that's not a big deal. You grab the phone, you give a phone call to Joe or myself and say, oops, oh la la, you know, I forgot. Well, that's fine, that's not a problem. What is important is to remain involved in the initiative and still do it and have a good communication. That's what we wanted to assess. What we also wanted to assess is the amount of energy we have to put in communication exercises and newsletters and all of those little surveys with you guys, so that you are happy also. So yes, well, I'm quite happy. Are you happy, John?
I'm happy, particularly the feedback, like Jim's comment there about if we were to start this again next year, we'd probably have a calendar at the back, and that would be the 23rd day of the month or whatever day of the month that's when it'll be dispatched from supply, and then you'll receive it on the 24th or 25th. So with it, it's all important feedback for us to be able to get them, and there's always going to be a new way or a debrief on how we do things as to how we can change it to and how we can make it more efficient. But it's been really good.
On behalf of Collingwood Children's Farm, on behalf of Barry and Ian, who've done most of the work here at the farm with regards to the bee force, thank you to Sabine and Joe.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you down here, Joe. Get a lot of entertainment from having you down here and hearing some of your tales. So, and the food's been fantastic. So
thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for cooking.
Thank you. Sabine's spread there is very good.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.